Who wants to hear me yap about my job? Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Lauren, or LBC Reads, and I am an author assistant slash content creator. Basically, we sum it up as I'm an author PA or personal assistant. That's the lingo. I get so many freaking questions about my job, what my average day looks like, how many clients do I work with, how did I get started, and I wanted to create a video where I could redirect everybody so they could hear me talk about how I got to this point, what that looks like, what my average day looks like, how much I actually work, and how honestly my job is not just reading all day. I think that's a common misconception that people assume I just sit around and read, and I don't. I will say it's a little frustrating when I work probably 60 to 70, sometimes more than that, hours a week, and people assume all I do is read. So anyway, let's get into it. So what are author services? What does being an author assistant even mean? Basically, I am the emotional support animal for an author, but I also do much more than that. I am their admin. I am their backup. I am the back end of things when an author is marketing their book, or if they're putting together literally there's so many aspects of this job. Basically, I just help support and assist an author. I work exclusively with romance authors all over the world, and I've not worked with other authors. Now, they do have subgenres within romance. I mean, everything from horror romance to sports romance to fantasy romance to contemporary romance, all of it. So I can't really speak to what it looks like outside of romance, but as an author assistant and what I do, I help with so much, but mainly with the marketing and the facilitating of releases for authors. So usually when an author is getting ready to release a book, I am helping them strategize, plan, check off their to-do list when it comes to a release. If they're releasing a book and they're sending out early copies, or what we'd call advanced reader copies, or ARCs for short, I will help create like a sign-up form to help them find readers who would be interested in reading their book early for marketing, feedback, reviews, basically to drum up excitement for their book. I will also help them create content for that book. Sometimes I will read the book early and I will give them content to use. Basically, it's called a content pool, and I'll pull things in their book that I think are marketable for them to use to attract readers to reading their book. That just kind of sums up like general. Obviously, as I start talking more about it, there will probably be more things that come to mind. I typically do read a lot of my clients' books early. Sometimes I'm an alpha reader and I will be the first person to read the book. Sometimes I'm a beta reader, meaning I'm like the second group of people to read the book. Usually beta readers are after editors. Alpha readers are before editors. Sometimes I'm reading the finished copy. I'm just reading it before everybody else. It really just depends. Sometimes I'm reading it with the rest of the ARC readers. It just varies. I don't offer editing services. I know there are several author personal assistants who do. I am not good at that. I am a vibe person. If you want me to read your book and tell you the vibes, I got you. So those are kind of some things that I do as an author personal assistant. I will also attend events. So there are events all over the country, whether that is just for that specific author or whether it's more of a convention and there's a ton of authors there. It really just depends. I will go to those events, and usually the author will be doing like a meet and greet, and they will also sign books for the readers. So I help organize that. I will do some stuff on the back end for that, whether that's answering emails, helping with pre-ordering books, questions, whatever it is. I feel like I'm rambling. Anyway, so there are just lots of different aspects to being an author assistant, and every author assistant is different in how they run their business, and also the authors are different in how they run their business, and it also just depends on what works best for you and the author. I have 11 authors that I am currently working with as clients, and every author is different, and even if I offer the same service to an author as another author, that looks different based on our relationship, based on the author's needs, based on their level of trust and how we communicate. It really just depends. So how did I get started as an author assistant? That is a very great question, and probably the question I get asked the most, because a lot of people who are wanting to get into this specific job, they're very curious on how I got started and how they could get started, and it really just depends. Again, every person's different, so it varies on how you can get started from person to person. How I got started, I started posting on Book Talk back in 2022, and in August of 2022 I connected with an author. Her name's Holly Renee, and I just loved her books. I was absolutely obsessed, would not stop messaging her, talking to her, posting about her books. In January 2023, she was hiring a content creator to help her with marketing her books, and I applied and she hired me. So after January, I started working with Holly, and a few months into it, I realized that this was something I wanted to do full time. I wanted to create content for other authors. I reached out to Holly and I asked her if she had any friends who would be interested in my services, and the rest is kind of history because I had 6 of her friends email me immediately. And over the last 2 years, I've just slowly added a new client every month. I've added new services. I've had to figure out what services do I want to offer, what services do I like doing, all of that. And so I kind of snowballed it to where I was just slowly adding and slowly growing. I've been asked if I have a background in marketing, or if this is what I went to school with, or if I've taken any courses or anything. It's all things I've taught myself how to do. I've not taken any courses. Now, of course, I do listen to podcasts or I read books or whatever to help grow my skills. But I actually went to college for biology and chemistry, and I have a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Science. Obviously, I use those every single day. But what I will say about my education is that I went to a liberal arts school, and I did have a very well-rounded education to where I was taking the marketing classes, I was taking economics. I took those classes to kind of help round out my knowledge. So after I graduated, I actually went into pharmaceutical sales and then ended up switching into real estate, and I did real estate for a while. I feel like real estate is what prepared me for my job because I liked the social media aspect and the marketing aspect of real estate more than the actual selling of homes. That's kind of how I got started posting on Book Talk, was because I was posting for my real estate job and I was looking at Book Talk as like a way to escape from this job that I despised. And so it just kind of built from there, but I wouldn't have the knowledge of, doing newsletters. That's something else I offer, of doing all these things, the importance of marketing, if I hadn't had real estate. So that's kind of how I got started. And like I said, it's all things that I've taught myself. For example, right now I'm looking into Pinterest marketing for my clients, and I don't know how Pinterest really works. Like, what are the benefits of it? How can you capitalize on Pinterest? And so that's something that I just research in my free time. And I will spend time developing that and figuring it out and testing it out before offering that as a service. If you're wanting to get into what I do specifically, it's just something that you have to be a quick learner, and you have to be willing to teach yourself those skills and to step outside of your comfort zone. What does a typical day look like for me as an author assistant? It varies day to day. I will say I am not somebody who is an early riser. I really struggle with that. So I typically sleep in. And then I like to get ready, whether that's I do my hair or I do my makeup or I do both. I always change and get dressed into something comfortable, and then I go and sit at my desk. I feel like getting dressed helps me feel more put together and feel like I can function and like I'm not just in bed all day. Sometimes I make breakfast, sometimes I go to Pilates. I try to go to Pilates every day just to get me out of the house and get my body moving. But then honestly, my day varies. Sometimes I'm creating content, whether that's for Instagram or for TikTok for my clients. Sometimes I'm answering emails. Sometimes I'm going through applications for ARCs. Sometimes I'm doing random tasks here and there. Sometimes I'm putting together the content pools where I'm filling out a sheet of all the information that I pulled from a book that's coming up for release for one of my clients. It really just depends. I have my to-do list of everything that I do. I post for 3 clients on TikTok and Instagram every single day. So that's something that I'm always thinking of. I have a few clients who I create the graphics and post them to Instagram, a couple times a week. I help manage Facebook groups. So really it just depends. And then of course, because I am self-employed, I do run errands throughout the day or the week. I will go to the grocery store, or if I have a doctor's appointment, if my friend wants to go see a movie, I do have that flexibility. And like I said earlier in the video, I do typically work 60 to 70 hours a week, because even though I may not be at my desk, I do a lot on my phone, because I also do engagement for Instagram, Facebook, TikTok for a few of my clients. And so that means I'm responding to comments, I'm responding to tagged posts, sometimes messages, and so that does take up a lot of my time. And even though I may not be at my desk, if we're eating dinner, if we're in bed, chances are I'm responding to somebody's tagged post or whatever it is. I do work weekends. Like I said, I work every single day posting on TikTok and Instagram for a couple of my clients, and then there are times where I am working at my desk during the weekend, usually just for a few hours. I do try to have somewhat of a work-life balance. After sitting down at my desk in the morning, I will work for a few hours. I'll usually break to eat lunch. Sometimes I go to Pilates, sometimes I run errands, and then I come back and I work until about 5:30, 6. That's when my husband gets home, and then I will make us dinner. And then after dinner, sometimes I will read, sometimes I will bedazzle books, sometimes I'll watch TV with him, sometimes I work. It really just depends. I have a very boring life though, where all I do is work or read. If I have an alpha read, I do try to read that during the day, because after work hours, if I'm reading, I try to keep that for like enjoyment or on the weekends. But yeah, that's a typical day for me. I also work a lot because I have so many clients. So if you start out in this industry and you're only working with 1 or 2 clients, you won't have as much to do. But I have a lot of well-established clients who've been doing this for a really long time. So they have a lot going on, and that means I have a lot going on. What do I enjoy most about my job? I just sat and talked about how all I do is work all the time. And it sounds, when I say that, the reason why I'm harping on how much I do is because I get so many comments about how it must be fun to just read all day for work. Not just on the internet, but in my real life as well. And I just want to clarify that that's not all I do. But what I do enjoy the most is getting to read the books early, as well as helping authors promote their book babies. Like, they spend so much time working on these books, writing them, marketing them, editing them, and to help them put their book baby out into the world, there's just no feeling like it. Now, of course, I love getting the chance to read it early. I love getting special editions. I love going to the events. I love knowing things before everybody. I know so many things. But really, I think what I enjoy the most is just knowing that I'm like helping somebody release this really creative part of them. It's like a piece of their soul out into the world. So when do I find the time to make content for myself? What does that look like? I am a bookish influencer and creator as well for myself personally, and I do post on here on YouTube, as well as TikTok and Instagram. And I always get asked, how do I juggle all of it? Honestly, I don't know. My personal content is very chaotic. I mean, I can't even consistently post on YouTube. I try to post consistently on TikTok and Instagram. It does not happen. I really just post when I want to. My clients' content gets prioritized. I typically batch content, whether that's for TikTok or Instagram. And I don't batch content by client. I batch content by style. So if I'm making videos for TikTok, I will make videos for all of my clients for TikTok, and then I'll edit all of them at the same time. If I'm making posts for Instagram and I'm taking photos, I'll take photos for all of my clients, and then I'll edit them. Sometimes it's by client, sometimes I will just do the whole month. It really just depends, but that's typically what it looks like for me. When I had less going on, I was really great about batching my own content, but now it's not as good. So hopefully this answers some questions about my job, what that looks like, what my typical day looks like, you know, answers any burning questions you may have about author personal assistants or content creators. I would love for this to become a series where I just talk about certain things. So if you have questions about my job, please drop them in the comments and I am planning to address them in future videos. But yeah, thank you so much for being here, for watching my YouTube videos while I learn how to do this. And thank you so much for all the support I have seen on Instagram and TikTok over the years, because I truly would not be here doing what I do if it wasn't for those accounts and all the support and love I've gotten. And I do have plans for the future with my job. We'll see what happens. I honestly change all the time. I love my job so much that I feel scared to grow sometimes and to push myself outside of my comfort zone. We'll see where things take me. So yeah, thank you so much for watching.